It all started like a harmless attraction. My husband, Chief Wike, had been my rock for years. But lately, his business trips were taking him away for months, leaving me alone in our big, quiet house. At first, I tried to cope by keeping myself busy with chores, TV shows, and visits to friends. But the loneliness kept creeping in, filling the house with an emptiness that made my chest ache. Then, Emeka came back from school. My stepson, tall, dark, and handsome, God took his time when he made him. Every time he walked into a room, it was as if he brought the sun with him. Women couldn't stop staring at him when we went out. Even my friends would jokingly ask if I was hiding him from Lagos girls. I would laugh and brush it off, but deep inside, I understood why they were so drawn to him. At first, I kept my distance. After all, he was just a young man with the energy and charm of his age. But then one evening, I heard him in the kitchen singing one of those new Afrobeat songs. His voice was deep and smooth, and I couldn't help but smile. I walked in, pretending I needed water. Mama, he said, smiling that smile that could make any woman weak. You like my singing? I laughed. It's not bad, but you need small practice. He laughed too, and we ended up talking for hours. It was harmless, just talk about school, his plans, and my cooking. But from that moment, I started noticing things about him, his confidence, the way he carried himself, the little jokes he cracked that made me laugh even when I didn't want to. One night, the power went out, and we were forced to sit together in the living room with candles lighting the space. We talked again, this time about life and dreams. The way he looked at me that night with those deep brown eyes made something stir in me. I felt ashamed, but I couldn't help myself. The first time it happened, it was like I wasn't in control of my body. We were in the kitchen again, joking about his poor attempt at frying plantain. I went to correct him, standing close behind him, and before I knew it, he turned around and our eyes locked. My heart raced. His hand brushed mine, and the next thing I knew, we were kissing. I pulled away, my mind screaming at me. Emeka, this is wrong, I said, my voice trembling. But he held my hand. Mama, I've tried to fight this feeling, he said. But I can't anymore. It was as if he had unlocked a part of me I didn't know existed. That night, we crossed a line I thought we'd never cross. I told myself it was just one mistake, but it wasn't. It happened again and again. Each time, I felt guilty, yet I couldn't resist. Emeka became my escape, my comfort in Chief Wike's absence. We laughed, we shared secrets, and for a while, I forgot the loneliness. But deep down, I knew it couldn't last. I was playing with fire, and I could already feel the flames leaking at the edges of my life. One afternoon, after another stolen moment with Emeka, I sat alone in my room, staring at a photo of Chief Wike and me. Tears rolled down my cheeks as guilt consumed me. How did I get here? How did I let myself fall so far? But just as I was drowning in regret, Emeka knocked on my door. He walked in, his usual confident self, and sat beside me. Neka, he said, his voice soft. You're not alone. You don't have to feel like this. His words were comforting, but they also scared me. I was trapped in a web of my own making, and I didn't know how to untangle myself without destroying everything. The days turned into weeks, and my life became a mix of emotions I couldn't explain. I knew what Emeka and I were doing was wrong, but it was as if I couldn't stop myself. Each stolen moment felt like I was filling a void Chief Wike had left behind. But the more it happened, the heavier my heart became. One Sunday afternoon, we were having lunch together in the dining room. Emeka had just returned from church, looking fresh in his white kaftan, the way it clung to his well-built chest. I couldn't concentrate on my food. My fork played with the rice on my plate, my thoughts a tangled mess. Mama, Emeka called, breaking into my thoughts. I responded, startled. You've been quiet all through. Are you okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine, Emeka. Just tired, that's all. But I wasn't fine. My heart was pounding, and I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I needed air, so I stood up abruptly. Excuse me, I said, rushing to the balcony. The cool breeze hit my face, but it didn't ease the storm within. As I stared at the compound below, memories of my life with Chief Wike flooded my mind, the way he used to hold me, the laughter we shared before his business trips became more important than our family. How did we get here? How did I let things spiral out of control? Before I knew it, Emeka was beside me. Neka, he said softly, his voice like a bomb to my troubled soul. Talk to me. I don't know, Emeka, I whispered, my voice breaking. I feel like I'm drowning. This thing between us, it's wrong. I can't keep doing this. He placed a hand on my shoulder, turning me to face him. You're not wrong for wanting love, Neka. You've been abandoned, left to feel like you're invisible. I see you. I care about you. His words hit me like a wave, and before I could think, I was crying. He pulled me into his arms, holding me as I sobbed. It felt safe, but it also felt like betrayal. After that day, I tried to put some distance between us. I avoided being alone with Emeka, kept myself busy with housework, and even started going out more. But Emeka, he was persistent. He found ways to pull me back in. A lingering touch here, a stolen glance there, it was like he knew exactly how to break down my defenses. One evening, he convinced me to watch a movie with him. Just a movie, Mama. Nothing more, he promised, flashing that charming smile. I hesitated but agreed, thinking I could handle it. We sat on the couch, a respectable space between us at first. The movie was a comedy, and we laughed so much that my sides ached. For a moment, it felt innocent, like nothing had ever happened between us. But then, during a quiet scene, he reached for my hand. I froze. My heart raced as I turned to look at him. His eyes, deep and searching, met mine. I can't help how I feel about you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Emeka, I started, but he leaned closer, cutting off my words. His lips brushed mine softly, and I melted into the kiss before I could stop myself. It wasn't just lust this time, it was tender, filled with emotions I wasn't ready to face. As the days went on, I felt myself slipping further. The guilt was always there, like a shadow following me everywhere. I prayed, asking God for strength, for forgiveness, but every time I saw Emeka, my resolve crumbled. Then, one day, everything changed. Chief Wike came home unexpectedly. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, when I heard his booming voice. Neka, where's my wife? My heart stopped. I hadn't prepared for his return. He walked into the kitchen, his presence filling the room. Surprised to see me, he asked, smiling. I forced a smile, my hands trembling as I wiped them on my apron. You didn't tell me you were coming back today. I wanted to surprise you, he said, pulling me into a hug. His scent, so familiar yet foreign after all this time, overwhelmed me. As we sat down to dinner that night, I couldn't help but notice the tension in the air. Emeka was unusually quiet, avoiding eye contact with both of us. Chief Wike, oblivious to everything, talked about his trip, his plans for the future, and how much he had missed us. But I couldn't focus. My mind was racing, fear gripping my heart. What if he found out? What if everything came crashing down? That night, as I lay in bed beside my husband for the first time in months, I felt the weight of my choices pressing down on me. I wanted to tell him the truth, to beg for forgiveness, but the words wouldn't come. And in the darkness, as Chief Wike's snores filled the room, I realized I was trapped in a web of lies I had spun myself. The days following Chief Wike's return were a blur of guilt and fear. I tried to avoid Emeka as much as possible, but it wasn't easy. The tension between us grew, and I could sense that Chief Wike was starting to notice something wasn't right. One evening, while Chief Wike was in his study, Emeka cornered me in the hallway. "Neka, we need to talk," he said, his voice low but firm. "There's nothing to talk about, Emeka," I whispered, glancing nervously toward the study. "This has to stop. It's over." His eyes softened, and for a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, the one I had helped raise, not the man who had turned my world upside down. "I care about you," he said. "But I see the pain in your eyes. Maybe it's time we let go, for both our sakes." His words were a mixture of relief and heartbreak. For the first time, I felt a sliver of hope that I could start to fix the mess I had made. But life wasn't going to let me off the hook that easily. A few days later, Chief Wike called me into the living room. He was holding his phone, a frown etched deeply into his face. "Neka, I received a message today. Someone sent me pictures of you and Emeka together." I froze, my heart plummeting to the floor. "What are you talking about?" I stammered, my voice trembling. He handed me the phone, and there they were, pictures of Emeka and me in moments we thought were private. My legs gave way, and I collapsed onto the couch. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to find the words to explain, to justify, but there was nothing I could say. Chief Wike stood over me, his face a mask of anger and betrayal. "How could you do this to me, Neka? To our family?" "I'm sorry," I sobbed. "I was lonely, vulnerable. I didn't mean for this to happen." But sorry wasn't enough. The damage was done, and my actions had torn our family apart. Chief Wike asked Emeka to leave the house immediately and made it clear that our marriage would never be the same again. That night, as I sat alone in the darkness, I realized the full extent of what I had lost, not just my husband's trust, but my own sense of self. I had let my loneliness and vulnerability lead me down a path I would regret forever. My advice for women in similar situations. To every woman out there, loneliness can be a powerful and dangerous emotion. If you ever feel neglected or abandoned in your relationship, don't let that emptiness push you into making decisions you regret. Instead, seek healthy outlets, talk to your partner, find a trusted friend, or even speak to a counselor. No matter how tempting the distraction might be, remember that the consequences can be devastating, not just for you, but for everyone involved.